Hi, I'm Mark Lee, and I'm here to interview Alan Rimm-Kaufman. Alan leads the Rimm-Kaufman Group, a direct marketing services and consulting firm he founded in 2003. Our focus today is going to be customer acquisition, and our audience will consist of direct marketers of all stripes, catalogers, financial services companies, and so on. As for the scope of this interview, I'd like to get your opinion on any and all aspects of bringing customers into the business via the Internet. Based on your background, obviously, I'd like to have your thoughts on how companies can best use paid search through Google and Yahoo. But first, I'd like to ask you to frame the topic a little bit by giving us a bit of history on search engine marketing.
So, search is a pretty young industry. I think Google just had a birthday and turned 7, 8, some very small number. Before search, it was the large portal deals with AOL, and advertisers had to buy chunks of advertising, banner impressions, and you had to negotiate with the engine in these huge blocks, and it was a very antagonistic, once-a-year, unpleasant process. At this point, the engine called Go-To arose, a Bill Goss company, and he had the notion of auctioning off clicks. In the early days of Go-To, next to each link on the search results, it would say, an advertiser paid 23 cents if you click here. It was all public. Go-To eventually became Overture, and Overture became Yahoo. Google entered much later. At first, Google was just great search results, but didn't have a monetization model. And they rolled out, at the beginning, a banner buy on Google, small text ads on the top on a fixed CPM. And then Google finally went to the model that we know today of ads on the right, ads on the top, sold on a per-click basis. The real beauty of it is that Google doesn't set the prices. They allow a marketplace to. So unlike the old days, if you're angry at your Google spend, your anger is sort of at your competitors rather than at Google itself. And then shortly thereafter, Yahoo copied that pricing model with their Panama release earlier this year. And the Microsoft platform is in effect a clone. So the model that Google invented has become the modern search industry.
Mm-hmm. Well, in our seminar, we will have covered the topics of lifetime value and customer acquisition cost against lifetime value. So let's assume the marketers have measured their lifetime value and have some estimate of the value from each source. And they have to decide whether to spend marketing dollars on redesigning their website, on optimizing the site for organic or natural search results, or on paid search. How would they go about making these decisions?
Sure. Well, hopefully, if the budget is fixed, you actually need to divide up the pie. But hopefully, you could say which of these channels are providing new customers at an attractive rate, and rather than saying I have $50,000 in marketing or $100,000 in marketing to spend, how do I divvy it up? Hopefully, you can say which channels are generating new customers at an attractive enough rate that I'll pour more resources into that. What's so different about these channels versus, say, cataloging is you get to adapt week to week and make changes. So if I had to prioritize those three, if you actually forced me up front to divvy up my money, I would certainly I would make sure the website was SEO friendly, and then I would really work on the site conversion. And when those things were in place, then I'd come in with paid search, because driving people to a crappy experience is just, you almost want to pay people not to see a bad experience. So I'd get the site in order and robot friendly first, and once you've shown that, then you can easily crank up or crank down the paid budget with Google and Yahoo, Microsoft.
Well, I come from a catalog background where a company typically has several hundred products, maybe 1,000 products. These companies often find they can profitably buy thousands and thousands of keywords, search terms or phrases. The explanation involves the theory of the long tail. Could you elaborate on the long tail?
Sure. It is a great essay. It was coined by Chris Anderson, and he was talking about how an online retailer without physical shelf space, like a Netflix, can afford to have many more products than a retailer with brick-and-mortar stores like a Walmart, because Netflix doesn't have to cover that rent. And the notion was that while you always have a few hits, those DVDs that everyone wants to see, you have a huge number of esoteric DVDs that very few people want to see, but together, collectively, all those crumbs in aggregate are really interesting. And that idea has been translated from the breadth of your product assortment, which was the original context of the long tail, to search terms in a portfolio. So there might be, a retailer that's selling camping goods might, for example, might have a couple of terms, skis, tents, boots, that have a huge amount of traffic, a very small number of terms that will be a large percentage of their clicks and of their cost. But there'll be a lot of esoteric terms, and if they choose to build out their paid keyword list, they can pick up those crumbs, hopefully at an attractive price and with a strong conversion. Again, those individual terms, like those Netflix DVDs, they're sort of individually irrelevant, esoteric, small, but collectively important.
Mm-hmm. Well, on a related subject, how do you feel about the idea of bidding on your own brand and paying for clicks on your own brand on the right-hand side when you may actually show up well in the
organic
results?
listings? Sure. First of all, if you're a manufacturer like a Lego or a Bose, where you're competing with your resellers, your retailers, your brand name isn't really your brand name, it's a competitive term. But let's say that you have your own brand name, like a Crutchfield or a Land's End or an LL Bean. I think that advertising is worth buying. It's usually quite cost effective, and studies have shown that when you have both an organic placement and a paid placement, there's a synergistic. It's a 1 + 1 = 4.
For a product as well.
For a product as well as the brand. But there's a really important point there, is that there's going to be so much love and goodness on your brand name, on your good name, that we suggest that when you do paid search, you actually break out those results and report them separately, because there's just so much stored goodwill, brand equity, that someone who comes to your website looking for you by name, they're probably going to buy. Right. And it's not Google doing it, it's really your history.
You distort the results.
Yeah.
That paid program. Well, if your company only has a handful of products or services as opposed to a cataloger with a huge array, can you still make paid search work for you?
You can. I think you should be looking at how many URLs you have on your website. And I wouldn't start picking words out of the sky. I would start with the pages on your website and then say, what words should I use to advertise them? If you don't have a good landing page to go to, you shouldn't be running those words. So let's say you had a polishing cream and you might have 5 or 10 products, and that's your whole portfolio. Maybe your website has the creams and maybe a couple different uses, the polishing cream for the automotive, polishing cream for the boat. Maybe the website's 20 pages, 30 pages. With that many URLs, I would suggest coming up with 5 to 10 keywords on the high side for each URL. So maybe with a 50 URL website, you'd be testing 100, 200, 300 different phrases. Some of them aren't going to work, and some of them won't have traffic, but that's a good testing ratio. So, a 50 URL website shouldn't have 500,000 terms in the term list. A company like CDW with 250,000 SKUs has 400,000 active phrases. So it's really a function of how complex your website is.